This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Hello, how's everybody doing? Dane from Actual Fandom will be joining us shortly. But yeah, one thing I did want to bring up is how I did get a copy of Item Number 1, and I have not finished reading it, so I will not be talking about that yet. I have read about half of it, and I do have things to say. I don't want to come off too negatively too quickly, but it was tough for me to stay awake, so I couldn't read it all in one shot. But yeah, that'll probably be for the next stream. Hey, Robert, how you doing? But yes, once Dane from Actual Fandom is ready, we will go ahead and start a conversation with him. Rag still hasn't replied to my invite to come on the channel and discuss his video with me. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say he's not going to come on because he doesn't want to actually stand up for his claims. So, yeah, he just wants to throw shit around and then not actually, like, address any of it directly with me. So, cool. You know, that's fun. I have a couple of debates lined up coming up for the coming week. I think that should be interesting because I do think there is a value. Like, I'd like to talk to someone like Rags. Obviously, he's going to do a 2.5-hour hit piece on me. I would like to actually fucking talk to him about that. But yeah, I would actually like to talk to some of the fans because I actually think there's a usefulness to actually talk to the fans. So any of the, like, you know, if you're a fan of my channel, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. But I'd also like to talk to the haters of this channel. So yeah, if there's like any haters in the chat, I'd like to arrange some time to actually talk to you. Maybe you will convince me of something else. Ooh, I hear something coming in.
Hey,
yeah, it's good fun. How you doing? Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, I guess while I get the details worked out on OBS right here, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dane. I have a YouTube channel called Actual Fandom. It's been called a couple other things in the past that maybe you've heard of, if not that one. At one point it was called Forced Adversity. Now it's Actual Fandom, and yeah, generally it's not a whole lot different from what you do, at least in terms of like the approach that we take and the content that we cover. I dedicate a lot of content time to debunking what I call anti-fans. These people that engage with this media all the time, but seem to do nothing but hate it, and in many cases just lie about it, and yeah. So yeah, I talk about that, and it's done pretty well for me. I just hit 3 years 2 days ago. I think I hit the 3-year mark of doing content.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, so what? You're at like 5,000 now after 3 years. That seems pretty good. I don't remember where I was at after 3 years, but yeah.
6,000, I think. How long have you been doing it?
8 years.
Damn, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. The dream is always that it's your full-time job, but yeah, it's not
right
yet. It's, but yeah. This whole like anti-fandom YouTube space is just something I kind of just stumbled onto earlier this year because I was not. Like, I didn't realize it had gotten this bad, honestly. For years, I've just been doing my video essays in my own YouTube bubble, just, not even watching other people's shit and just doing my own thing. But yeah, I see you've been doing it for a lot longer than I have. Well, I don't know, but definitely longer than I have. When did you discover this, like, issue with the anti-fans, I guess you want to call them?
Well, I mean, I started my channel almost exclusively to deal with this. So, like,
oh, wow.
It was... I had a Facebook group back whenever I still, was dumb enough to be on Facebook. And, this is like 2016, 17, 18. And it was just like a Marvel group. And I would just, I would just kind of post whatever I was reading or into. I would find some art that I liked and post it in there. And I've started posting stuff like, oh, this, Ms. Marvel is now Captain Marvel. The original, Carol Danvers was originally Ms. Marvel. She became Captain Marvel. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Posting about that. And it's like, or we're posting about Kamala Khan, that Ms. Marvel, or posting about, Sam Wilson being Falcon or something. I'm just like, look, I've been reading comics I partially learned to read from comics. I guess you can't probably see it, but like this whole shelf, and then there's boxes up here. Like I know comics pretty well. I've been reading them a long time. And I started seeing these people responding to these posts like, well, that's just SJW forced diversity. And I'm like, what the hell does any of this mean? Like, I had no idea what any of it meant. I'm like, this is coming out of nowhere. Like, these people seem very confident, and yet I know that that they're just kind of wrong, or at least that their opinions are really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I started looking more into it, and that's when I kind of started down the rabbit hole of like understanding where this. Of course, that was pre-woke. It was just pretty much SJW was what it was referred to then. Sorry, my camera's getting all blurry. I don't know if
it happens.
But yeah, so I decided, I'd never been good at public speaking. I never liked it. I never, was really any good at that, putting my thoughts out publicly at all. But I kind of dedicated myself to working on it, and I'm going to start a channel and see what I can do. And, the goal is, like I said on Twitter the other day, was like, my mantra has always been that if I'm pissing these people off, then I must be doing it right. And so that's what's kept me motivated. Was pretty instantly I got some real backlash, and from the exact people that I would have expected. And I was like, all right, if I wasn't making some kind of point, then they wouldn't bother with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's the exact thing I've noticed, because I've only been going down this rabbit hole for like 8 months or something like that. But yeah, it's like I'm getting all these people mad, and some of the stuff that I read in my comments are kind of just outrageous. And it's like,
yeah,
really? I know you keep your comments more moderated than mine, mostly because I just don't have the energy. But yeah, there's some terrible stuff in there. If I notice it get really bad, I start passing out bans. Which, like, as a general rule, was something I didn't want to do on my channel, really at all, unless it really got extreme. But honestly, it does get extreme.
Yeah. That's the thing. I kind of got to that point pretty quickly, because at first I was the same. It's like, I want to have conversations with people. I don't want to, because I know the first thing that's going to happen, because I hear it, is, oh, you're not into free speech or whatever. And it's like, well, that's not what this is. This is not a free speech issue. It's a platform issue, and it's my platform. But nonetheless, once I realized, like, I started drawing fans who are like trans and black, and like these people that had been looking for content on YouTube that was like welcoming to them, and then all they were finding was these fucking chuds, and that are essentially just hostile to their existence in fandom in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so I started, just by nature of being one of the only ones doing what I was doing and really calling them out and stuff, started drawing the types of people in my audience, which I'm fucking happy about. And I started realizing, wait, the other thing that I can do with this platform, besides call these people out, is build a community that's inclusive and, welcoming to everybody, which means that I should take some responsibility for, keeping it essentially safe for everybody to enjoy conversations and content without having to deal with that, because it's everywhere in fandom. You can't go anywhere or comment on anything without getting this nonsense, spewed back at you 1,000 times. So, that's been the other part of my goal, is to, kind of give as much as I can, offer a place where people don't have to worry about, getting, essentially otherized or implied or straight up told that they're not welcome or they're not valid or whatever. And so along with that came, I mean, I'm not against people having different opinions than what I have in my comments or whatever. That happens all the time. But like, once you start saying stuff that essentially is invalidating, the existence of different people, or that you're dismissing their issues as just like identity politics, or just wokeness gone amok, or whatever the hell it is. It's like, no, you can do that anywhere else on the internet. You're not going to do it in my community. So.
That's cool. Maybe I should be a bit stricter on my comments, but it gets crazy quick.
I mean, my filtered comments, I could show you my filtered comments. It's obscene. Like, it's disgusting. I mean, if I just did like a 10-minute video showing what was in my filtered comments, my channel would get taken down, I think. It just that's how bad it is.
Your filtered comments sound like my filtered comments. So, like, even with my comments letting more stuff through, like, I look at my filtered comments sometimes, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
But they're not hateful. They're not hateful, though.
Sure,
despite the fact that, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, you get called pretty much every name in the book. Occasionally you even get a threat, which is always fun. Yeah, no, it's insane. And I found it kind of outrageous because I actually, I found you and I found people like you on Twitter, which is worth noting. I didn't find you on YouTube because once you're like a little bit like looking at this rabbit hole, you're just getting pumped full of all this anti-woke stuff. You're not going to get any counter narrative on YouTube. And
I mean, it's like that even if you are even if you're not intentionally looking for it, because I've got a couple of different accounts, to kind of see what the difference is. And one of them I actively avoided. My main one, of course, is just nothing but that. But on another one, I actively avoid it. And then still, once in a while, something will pop up and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and it just really shows how far this problem goes. And like you, unlike you, I found you on YouTube. I don't remember exactly when I noticed, but it was definitely kind of like a holy shit moment, because you and Turf Nation, as far as I know, are the only ones that kind of do what I do. You both have your different approaches and definitely skills and ways of approaching that are, in my opinion, superior to mine. But we have our different ways.
I think you have excellent ways of approaching it. So
I'm sure we all have our strengths, but it was just really kind of because I spent a couple of years just like, I'm the only one doing this. And then I came across you couple of channels and like, well, maybe one day we'll be able to talk. Because as we were talking about, like these Fandom Menace folks, they all have, this whole network of themselves, and they cross platform each other. They go on each other's shows all the time. They have a weekly show together. And it's like, that is a big deal in the algorithm,
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, you always get Friday Night Tights with Critical Drinker and fucking Alex Jones and all this crossover shit. Yeah, no, and it's like, my God. I've always wanted Alex Jones's media critique, guys. Great. Way to not bring politics into it. But yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy how well these guys network. Yeah, I would definitely like to bring more of a network going together. I have to admit, I still haven't looked into anything Turf Nation's done. I've just heard really good things. But yeah, I just remember when I went down this tunnel, like I hadn't even found you guys yet, and I felt like, Jesus Christ, am I going down this tunnel alone? Because this is bad. And I was just essentially, at first I was making fun of them because I was like, I'll just do some reaction videos, easy content. And I was just like, oh wow, these guys are really bad. I'll just make fun of them a bit. And fuck, the people who came to defend them and some of the things they'd say, I was just like, oh shit. This is a problem, isn't it? This isn't good. I mean,
it's my start kind of was more specifically from the comics side of things. I wasn't really fully aware of the Fandom Menace or anything like that yet. So it was all Comicsgate was what I had become aware of. Because the guy who's kind of the de facto leader of Comicsgate, I used to be a fan of his, and I kind of watched him on social media devolve over time from like, 10 years ago, he would every once in a while make a slightly, edgy race joke or something, and people would get mad, and he'd have to apologize, or he would apologize. And this is when he was working for DC on like Green Lantern books, big project. And then just over time, it kept happening. It was a cycle where he'd say something really messed up. People would call him out on it. He'd have to apologize, and then it would just over and over. And then finally, that built up enough, and he eventually got fired. And that's when he kind of became this leader of Comicsgate kind of thing, and I just watched it all happen, watched it all unfold, and I'm like, man, this guy is making some crazy claims. I've made a video called this, but he's the Alex Jones of comics.
Is there a reason why you're not calling him out? Because I'm pretty sure who you're talking about, but yeah.
No, I mean Ethan Van Sciver. I try. Like, I'm hesitant when I don't, because my thing is I don't want to draw attention to anybody that I draw myself, so I try not to just speak specifically unless I know somebody's cool with it. When I go on another channel or whatever.
I'm done tap dancing around these guys. Call out whoever you want.
No, yeah, it's Ethan Van Sciver. He knows
Yeah.
who I am. He blocked me on Twitter. You know, he's tried to.
Oh, we just do regular
he's made
Twitter
all
arguments.
it's been pretty frustrating because in the last few months, I've noticed that they engage with me less. They won't address me specifically. Used to, Ethan would retweet my tweets about him, and he'd, try and dunk on me or whatever, or obfuscate. And then at a certain point, he stopped. And I noticed that he would still address the things I'm saying, but not mention me specifically, or not show my tweet, or not show my video or whatever. Like he used to watch my videos on stream whenever I talked about him, and he doesn't do that anymore. And I can't help but think it's because it's not good for him. Like I admit my arguments and stuff weren't that great for the first couple of years, but I'm pretty confident in them now, and I think I'm cutting through the noise with my points. And it's a good thing and a bad thing because they don't even want to engage with me.
Mike, thank you for the $2 super chat. Yeah, I sometimes think that's why Ethan, he likes to get in like little Twitter feuds with me. And yeah, I think that's partially why, because like I'm a much, much smaller creator than he is. And I definitely have never worked for DC or Marvel or anybody like that. And I sometimes wonder, like, am I getting under his skin? Does he realize, like, a part of him realize I'm right? I have to wonder with someone like him, because it's weird.
It is. That's my mind's always there too. Is like, is this person? Are they? Because here's the thing that, and I'm sure you realize this. These people have to have an enemy and conflict all the time in order to, like, when it comes to Comicsgate or Eric July or whatever, the same thing essentially. But like, if they don't have an enemy to go, these are the people that are bad. They're the ones ruining the comics that you used to love. Because that's the first part of the tactic. The second part is, but I'm selling this comic that's not like that, and that's their whole grift, man. It's just that they lie about it to varying degrees, but it always has to have a target of conflict and an enemy, and so that's what they do on Twitter. They'll start fights with whoever, and then they'll make a video out of it and say that the SJWs or the wokes are saying this now, and it's like they're talking about some Twitter account with 500 followers.
Yeah, they love to pick out those ones. I always see that in the videos. They're like, oh, look at these crazy tweets, and it's like, no likes, 2 likes, no likes. It's like, these are fucking meaningless. Why are you freaking out? And it's like, they need to pick out these guys to make fun of, apparently. It's definitely a bully culture.
Yeah, definitely is. And then that's just how they make money. Like, you can go, if you ever like stop in on one of Van Skyver's streams, there are people that will pay like $50, even $100 super chats just for him to say some version of SJWs are bad. You know what I mean? Like, these people are fucking demented. He's like paying that much money and he's just reading their tweet. It's like, yeah, SJWs suck or something like that. It's like, man, that's a good grift if you can get it,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be drawing. No. He's like 2 years late on the comic that he's supposed to have out, so I can understand why, because he's constantly streaming and talking shit instead of actually working on his comic.
Well, it always seems like all these comic skaters, they're always fucking late, and there's always some excuse. I mean, just on Twitter recently, Ethan even admitted to me, like, oh, I'll never be caught up in all the orders. It's like, why won't you? And then he tried to say some bullshit about, well, we get new orders every day. And it's like, well, sure. But yeah, surely you have like some sort of system where it's like you have to, when you get a new order, you have 3 to 5 days to get it in, right? What the fuck are you talking about? Why are you making up excuses? You know what I mean?
I don't know if you saw that graphic I made the other day about that exactly. I can pull it up in a second. But like basically, Eric July and his Rippaverse, he announced ISOM and Rippaverse in, I think it was like March of this year, announced it, right, for the first time. And then by October, all of the books are all out. Everybody's got their books in their hands. I think they were maybe like a month or so late from what he had originally said, but still, within the same year, he got those books made and out to people. Compared to, and I hate to give the guy credit because Eric July sucks too. I'm just saying that it shows how bad
it's different.
Ethan is. Ethan's, he announced his in like, I don't know, it's July of 2020 or something like that. And they're still, it's always just getting delayed again, his book. So there's something going on there where I don't know, man. At a certain point, you would think that a lot of these fans and stuff would just go, "Oh wait, he's kind of leading me on with this shit." But
well, yeah. Do we know, did Eric July actually get all his orders out? If so, good on him. Because these Comic Skates guy, I'm used to there being like half of them don't get their orders. And that's
actually a good question.
Yeah,
I guess I'm taking for granted that he did, but maybe I'll look into that for sure.
Yeah, I am not sure. Like I said, I got a copy of Isom not directly from the source. A friend of a friend of a friend's brother bought it, really excited, and apparently hated it. And then I have a friend who was able to get for ESO in-game gold for me to cover it on the channel. I've started reading it, and I was going to read it like before I started this stream, but I was like, this is actually making me really tired, so I'm not going to do it right before the stream.
Yeah, I mean, I have it. I have it. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't get it by any. I'll just say I have it. You know, and it's kind of funny that when I announced that I had a copy, like last week or something.
Yeah.
Several people in my audience that had been watching me for quite a while were like, "Oh, I can't believe you'd pay for that, and now because you paid for it, you're not going to give your honest opinion on it." And I'm like, "What? First of all, do you really think I paid for this shit?"
Yeah. Well, even if I was so interested just to review it, to give an honest review, to pay for it to Eric July, I would actually be scared to put my name on that order form because he probably knows who I am. We've gone into Twitter disputes as well. If he sees my name on that order form, he'll just be like, "Oh, put this order in the back."
Yeah.
So, like, there's no way I would order it from the source. There's no.
I just dropped that graphic that I made, by the way, in Discord. In the DMs. Do you want to show it? It's up to you.
Yes.
No big deal.
Let me see. Oh, hey, yeah, that was a good one. Let's see how easy this is. It's probably easier if I share it as a file. But yeah, let's see. Oh, it should be. Oh my God. Windows is awesome. It just gave me like 3 different pop-ups. I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, Eric July is interesting because I had never even mentioned him on my channel until July of this year.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about when I mentioned him, yeah.
And it's funny because all I did was I noticed that when all the Isom announcements were going around and I saw the character and I was like, that character, the costume design reminds me of Mr. Terrific from DC Comics.
Oh. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Oh my God. You're
not even thinking about the fact that they're also both black, but that's not where my mind was, you know. And no matter how, if those people are going to think what they're going to think, I can't make them think that that's not what it was about. But it literally just looked like a T across his, his torso. Turns out it's an I. But anyway, and I made a dumb, snarky comment on Twitter about it. I was like, wow, this is pretty original. I love Mr. Terrific too, And then suddenly I had like 100 of his fans in my YouTube comments, like they changed platforms to come harass me and calling me a racist. And I was like, wow, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't. I've never really heard. I think I've heard of Young Ripa, but like Eric July was a name I did not know about. And I didn't know about until people just started posting in my comments. You'll never go after Eric July. He raised so-and-so on this. He'll never go. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And do I need to go after him? So I just did a video where I researched him, and I was just like, what I find interesting about Eric July is that you can watch a lot of his videos, and he doesn't actually say a whole lot in any of them. It's a whole lot of nothing. It's just one of those things that pops up with him. Yeah, he works with terrible people, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, whenever I have covered, so that first time I covered him, I literally just kind of gave a quick, primer on who he is, which is basically I did my research and then did the video instead of on stream. But lately we've been doing it more like that, where we actually learn stuff as we're streaming. But so I kind of looked into it. I was like, wow, this guy actually works for Glenn Beck's network.
Oh, he does? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He does. Yeah. Oh, we got some information. We've been doing some digging. We took the month of October off of Chud content, basically. We done some horror content. We've talked about other issues, but I wanted to take the month off, for several reasons. And then we're getting back into it starting Tuesday, I guess. But in that time, I've also been doing some more digging on a lot of things regarding Eric July and his career, how he got started. Also reviewing the comic, making notes about that. And we're going to have a big ISOM stream sometime pretty soon. I'm not sure what day yet, but probably next weekend. And we're going to review the comic. We're going to look at the sales. We're going to look at the marketing. Mm-hmm. We're going to go pretty deep on the whole thing. Nonetheless, but whenever I covered, here's who he is. I was said, you know what, maybe this comic will be good, but it's kind of noticeable that he has built his audience on hating Marvel and DC. And now suddenly he's like, but I got this comic, and he's acting like it's some big feat that people are buying it, when it's like, that's a really fucking weird way to build an audience and then claim you've won in the comic book game when you had a pre-built, pre-made audience ready to pay for it.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird. Like, I even brought up when I did a video on him, because it allows just all live research, and I was just like, okay, he's literally running a campaign from his website that he controls 100%.
Yeah,
that's weird. And then if you ask him about it on Twitter, he always says stuff like, "Well, it's not a fundraiser. It's not a. I think he calls it a pre-sale." Yeah, and it's like, but why do you have goals then? If it's a pre-sale, then just fucking sell it. Why do you set up to look exactly like crowdfunding if it's not crowdfunding? What the fuck, dude?
All of these people, one thing you'll notice is all of these people operate in gray areas. They thrive in, kind of benefit of the doubt type context. So it's like, it's not a crowdfund, because that way he can kind of make whatever excuses he wants, but it's also operates pretty much like a crowdfund. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense. That way you can't hold them to anything, right? Like, you can't hold them to any standard. But yeah, so then whenever his people responded or whatever, and then that thing came out where there was this one of many Spider-Man variants in the comic that was going on, the Spider-Verse comic, that one was disabled and had crutches. And these people, like all of the people on the right in this fandom space, fucking lost their minds, and they were being ableist pieces of shit. And I got really upset about it, pissed off about it. And I made a video really just tearing apart his whole, because I was kind of nice the first time. I was just like, oh, this is what, the second time I wasn't so nice. And I realized how bad faith he is. He's sitting there talking like he knows comics when he clearly doesn't. Like, maybe he was into them at one point, but he obviously hasn't read them in like a decade or something, Marvel or anything. And yet he talks about it as if he knows what he's saying. And I've got a whole video full of me just debunking pretty much every point he made in a 6-minute video that he did. And I post those clips around pretty often just because, I really want people to see. I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, you're not a real fan if you don't know this or this or this. I don't like that shit. But if you're claiming to be superior to a Marvel or any company, indie or whatever, and then you're also just completely objectively false about the facts that you're trying to convey to prove that they're woke and terrible or whatever. Yeah, I got a problem with that. I think that's toxic. I think it's harmful to fandom and contributes to some pretty shitty attitudes and discourse.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing. Like, you look into half these claims these guys make, they're either just shit just pulled out of their ass or just some obscure article from a website that's probably just trying to get the same audience they have. Just so often. I mean, there's like occasionally there's like two like good claims in a lot of these videos, and then the rest is just complete garbage. And what kind of drives me nuts is that so many of the fans will just take their word for it, and they will argue these points without even like looking at it or even watching it to actually know if these points are even valid. And that's something I always found interesting.
And that's one of the reasons, by the way, that I just stopped kind of like having patience for people in my comments and stuff. Is just like, I'll tell them, if you want to talk to me and you want to debate ideas or whatever, then you can come on stream. you're come on the stream and we'll talk. But like, I'm not going to debate you in my comments while you can berate me and say whatever you want and not be held to any standard. Fuck that. You know, and that's part of it is because they just say whatever they have to, or more accurately, they say what they've been fed. You know, I've done a couple of videos like on characters being replaced. That's one that I saw repeatedly for years now, that like, oh, they're replacing this character with this character. So I did a video, you know, I asked a guy at one point in my comments, I'm like, which characters are being replaced? Can you give me a list? And he did. He gave me a list of what characters he said are being replaced. And I went through each one of them and explained how none of these characters have been replaced. They may have added a legacy character or some variant or something like that, but none of them are gone. You know, that's not what that's what replaced means, is you take one away and put something in its place, and that hasn't fucking happened.
Yeah, no.
A single time.
No, well, especially in the comic books. Like in the movies, obviously contracts end up, they might do something kind of like that. But in the comic books, they can keep people around forever. And comic books, like, especially on the DC side, they've done legacy characters forever. I can't tell you how many Green Lanterns there have been, Flashes there have been. I mean, Bruce Wayne was Batman for a long time, but then they even experimented with Batman. We had Dick Grayson Batman for a little while. This is not unheard of. This happens. And I just feel like all of a sudden, when they start experimenting, okay, maybe women or minorities will take over the mantle. All of a sudden, these guys get all caught up in it. It's like, you didn't give a shit before. Why do you care now? When you...
It's really weird. I don't, you know, to me, it just seems like or at least, I don't know if you saw, by the way, but like day before yesterday, I think, there was Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked.
I did see that. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Did you see any of the information that came out about that guy?
I saw he had a giant Black Adam review. I did not read into it, but yeah,
he was a Fandom Menace guy.
Yeah.
Like he was huge into the Fandom Menace, and it's like, you know, of course, I'm not going to do like these guys tend to do and just use one example to say this proves my case, but it kind of does. I mean, like there's a study that I'm editing a video that we did about it right now. A study that's come out that shows how all of the racist, sexist attacks on Star Wars and Rings of Power in the last several months, all of that traffic on Twitter is generated by the exact YouTube channels that you would think. Like they're all traced back to the Fandom Menace channels, and you know it just becomes clear that this is not just about. I don't want them changing my comics or my Star Wars or whatever. Like, you know, maybe it was that for some people at first, but what it becomes is an indoctrination tactic for far-right ideology, essentially. And you know, I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say on this channel, but I say it all the time.
No, because that's like going down this rabbit hole. That's what I found. It's like you get Fandom Menace, like on the movie side, you get like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, and then just on the raw political side, you have Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh. And at the end of the day, they're all saying about the same goddamn things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even like wildly different. Sometimes it's the same fucking video done by two different people doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you notice that like the whole groomer thing just kind of seemed to pop up out of nowhere about a year ago. And it just all at once, they're all using it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, the insidious thing about this. And that's why honest people are inherently at a disadvantage on these social media platforms, because dishonest people just have to get in lockstep with their messaging. And that just boosts all of them in the algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating. That's why people try to do what we do on YouTube sometimes. But like I've talked to several people who are like, I tried it. And I just got harassed and attacked and bombarded, and I gave up. You know, it's just a hostile fucking. And the thing is about that is that it makes the audiences, they're convinced that they're the majority of fans because of that. Because and
I was just gonna say, it sometimes felt like that. Like you go in the comments of a lot of my videos, it sometimes feels like that. But it's like, how many of these people do you actually meet in the wild, though? It feels like these people just collect under these big YouTube banners because they just make the content for them, and then they feel like, oh, all these people are here, so everybody must feel this way, and the answer is no.
Yeah, It's you look at sorry, I was about to say something and it just slipped my mind. It's whether it's Comicsgate, I'm sorry, whether it's the comic book industry, you can look at sales, and they will say that comics are dying. They've been saying that for like 5 years now. Every year that Comicsgate has existed, they've been saying that the comics industry is on its last leg, it's dying or it's dead. And every year since they've existed, comic sales have risen.
Really, I didn't even know that.
Yep, you would think. I mean, I've done a couple of videos on it, but like you would think that they would take a clue eventually, and be like, oh, maybe we're not only wrong, but maybe somehow we're contributing to comics doing better, because that's weird. But then also you look at Marvel movies making $1 billion, like Captain Marvel, Black Panther. Both of those were oh, these are woke, they're gonna flop, especially Captain Marvel. Prior to the movie, then it comes out and makes $1 billion, and it's like, clearly these people that are acting like they're the majority of fans on YouTube and such aren't the majority, because they're just the majority on YouTube. And otherwise, how do you explain all this money that these things are making? And of course, that's where the conspiracy narratives come in. That like Disney paid for seats for Captain Marvel or something like that, and the reviews, their critics are paid shills and stuff like that. It's absurd.
No, I love the idea that Disney is paying for reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, especially when it's like I noticed it a lot with Black Adam. People are like, "Oh, Disney is obviously paying for reviews, and why is Black Adam getting bad reviews?" Ignoring the fact that Disney doesn't part own Rotten Tomatoes, but Warner Brothers does.
Well, then there's apparently, I don't know if he still is. There was an executive at Rotten Tomatoes or something that used to work for Disney, and I saw someone using that as a, aha, look at that. He used to work for Disney, and it's like, yeah, keyword used to. You think these people just hold allegiances from corporate job to corporate job,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's frustrating, and a really absurd one, speaking of Black Adam, that I saw was one of these fucking far-right anti-fandom websites. There's a few of them. There's Bounding in the Comics. There's Cosmic Book News. And they all do the same thing.
But yeah.
It's the same purposes. Like you mentioned earlier, that they probably are trying to get the same audience. Not only are they going for the same audience, they're in many cases working with the Ethan Van Sciver's and stuff. Like Ethan Van Sciver will tweet something, one of his crazy things, and then Bounding into Comics and Cosmic Book News will write an article about that within half an hour. And it's like they have their alerts set for him, and then they can make an article that's titled like, Comics Insider, says blah blah blah. And he's just been wrong so many times. I've proven that a few times over. But on Black Adam, the Bounding into Comics was saying, oh, so where are the cries about racism and sexism and the accusations of review bombing? Because the critic score is low? Yeah. So they're trying to turn it around on people, like how they're like, oh, how come you aren't saying that this is right? Well, because it's not the audience score. Yeah. For one thing, it's just so absurd, man.
You can't. Well, I guess you could bomb the critic score, but Jesus Christ, that's a lot of work. I'm trying to remember what the qualifications are to get on the Rotten Tomatoes critics. It's like you have to do like a movie review weekly, for like a year and have like 20,000 followers or something like that.
Yeah, just to be a critic. Dedication.
Yeah, that's dedication. If you're going there just to bomb one movie.
And it's just you're just one person out of a few hundred critics.
Yeah,
you're not even making a dent. You'd have to have an organized team of guys that you're like paying to go through this effort and stuff like that. But
yeah, no, it gets ridiculous. I do think it's interesting how they like to cherish that audience score. Like, and honestly, because of all the review bombing, they've made audience scores worthless.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say. Like, they like to cherish that thing. It's like, no, there's no value to that thing whatsoever.
Well, they'll cherish it. That's the thing, is they will change whatever metric. They will move to whatever metric they need to push their narrative, right? So, like, if the box office is doing well, they'll and the critic scores are good, then they're definitely going to review bomb the thing that they don't like. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's when they're like, oh, look at this. The fans hate it. But if it's something that they do like, and it's maybe not getting great critic scores or not getting great audience score, they'll dismiss it like it doesn't mean anything. They're like, oh, nobody cares about what Rotten Tomato, and it's just so brazen and obvious that like I feel like their audience must have the memory of a goldfish to fall for this shit repeatedly. But.
Well, quite recently we saw obvious narrative change because going into Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, all these channels were blasting both those properties for being woke nonsense. And suddenly, when they're both coming out against each other, all of a sudden they're talking about how House of the Dragon is beating Rings of Power and is better than Rings of Power in every way. And it drove me kind of nuts, because if you actually watch those series, number one, as far as themes go, House of the Dragon has way more so-called woke themes, women in power themes, people of color just existing, apparently. That's way more prominent. That's right. Sorry. You did have a graphic on that one. Let me see if I can dig that one up. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one? Because that is such a weird narrative shift. Because they used to just bash on all of them.
I just dropped it in the DMs there in Discord if you want to use that. But yeah, that was really enlightening to me, because it's like something that until you see it just laid out the way that I did in the graphic. And by the way, like, I have to give credit to the Twitter account Fandom Menace posting their L's. I would not have caught that the way that they did, but they took they gave like one example where they said this about House of the Dragon last month, but now that Rings of Power is out, they're like, oh, House of the Dragon's so good and it's beating Rings of Power. And I was like, really? And I started looking at their different channels, and I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, dude, that like literally a month ago, right before House of the Dragon premiered, they're shitting on it, they're calling it woke, they're race baiting, sexism posting and stuff. And then as soon as Rings of Power came out, which they've been priming for over a year, that was going to be they're going to talk shit on that one. And it's so absurd. And as it explains in the graphic there, that benefits them so much because they get the conflict narrative that they need to get clicks. They get both trending shows in the tags, in the title, in the algorithm. Like, that's so good for their content. You know what I mean? And it's also just, as you can see there, pretty obvious that they just completely changed with what they needed at the time. And they never answered for it. They never said, oh, actually, House of the Dragon's not woke, it's good. Well, they just started saying that it's good. They never answered for any of the shit they said, and it's just so dishonest. I don't know how anybody can see that kind of thing and still trust those channels at all.
I get confused by it as well, because like I saw that happening, and I'm like, what? Are you like? I know you guys were shitting on House of the Dragon. All of a sudden, you're talking about how great it is just because it's not Rings of Power. And one thing I always thought was funny about Rings of Power is how much they screamed about, and that might be legit one of the whitest shows I can think of on TV right now. Like, it's ridiculous, and these guys are like screaming about diversity in Tolkien, and at the end of the day, I don't care.
I mean, I'm all for, like, I'm just all for, like, whatever. It's weird that they are also the same people that act like that we're the ones that care so much about race, when it's more like, we're just opening up the field because it's been narrowed and closed for a long time as far as like entertainment and representation. Speaking of Eric July, by the way, because one of the things I pointed out was like, this is a guy who shits on representation in comics all the time. It's, they're just adding token characters or whatever, and it's like, well, it's kind of obvious, right, that he made a black superhero, and I'm all for it. Like, cool, great, and but at the same, how do you hold these two ideas at once? Where like representation is bad, but also I made my superhero to represent, black people or me or whatever he was thinking. It's like if you didn't care about representation, then why did you make him black?
Yeah.
And there's clearly some disconnect there that I'm just not. I don't get it.
No, I definitely don't see it either. Because like, I mean, one of my early criticisms of that comic book game before it came out, I was like, oh, Isom's black, looks pretty woke. I mean, and that's the thing, like, anytime there's a person of color any minority or any woman in any, like, lead role, or sometimes it's a secondary role, like Like with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Reva. They blew up over that, and it was just like, why? Like, she's not taking over the show. Like, they have the whole bait and switch narrative, which never is a narrative, as far as I can tell. It's just a narrative on their side. It sounds like you have some stuff to say about that.
Well, they said it. Oh, yeah, they sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting. I think there's a little bit of delay, so like...
there's definitely a delay, but yeah, you're good.
With Hawkeye was the first one I really noticed them doing the bait and switch thing. They're like, oh, look, it's, they call it Hawkeye, but then it's really about this girl Hawkeye, and it's like, well, are you comics fans or not? Because she's been around since like 2006, and her name was Hawkeye pretty much from the beginning. But like, they act like the show's going to introduce her, and then like Clint's gonna die in the second episode, and then now it's just her show or something. It's like, no, it's it's no different than Batman and Robin, except in this case they just use the same name because stop imposing arbitrary rules, creative rules on what you can do with these things. But it's really just about sexism, because with that show in particular, like Hawkeye, just as an example, and they're doing it with Shuri and Black Panther, I've seen too. But with Hawkeye, it's like the show starts and she's, in college age, I think she is in that when the show starts. And it shows that she's got, like several belts for martial arts. She's already a fucking, like a really great archer. And then they're making videos like, she's just automatically good at everything. They don't show her. They need to show her training and getting good at stuff. And it's like, well, hold on. Did they show Clint doing those things?
Exactly.
No. As soon as we see him, he's like the best archer in the fucking world, and we just accept it. I wonder what the difference is,
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's intense double standards with these characters. Like, they demand all these origins be specifically laid out for all the women or minority characters, when it's like, wait, the counterpart character, the white guy character, you didn't demand anything like that. Like, we know nothing of Hawkeye's origin. Hawkeye is just really good with arrows, and we know nothing about how he got good with arrows. And we just accept it. And suddenly we need a whole training thing for Kate? What? Why? And I find so often, like, a lot of the arguments they have, they aren't showing they aren't showing why Captain Marvel has powers. They give you her origin, and then they explain that her powers have been suppressed. I mean... Yep. Captain Marvel as a movie doesn't thrill me, but
same.
Yeah, it's like a lot of these things that they complain about. It's like they actually covered that in the movie.
Yeah, it's like, and that's another thing that sucks is I don't feel like I should even give my opinion on stuff like that because I don't want it to get swallowed up with all this other shit. And it's like, I don't think Captain Marvel is a bad movie, but it's definitely, if I were to do an MCU rewatch, I'd look forward to it almost, last. Probably not last, but, close to last. I mean,
Thor the Dark World does exist, so.
and so, like, yeah, it's the things that are wrong with Captain Marvel are not anything to do with an agenda or gender or, her not smiling, whatever the fuck it is. None of the stuff that they say, it's like for one thing, it's an origin story that came a decade after we'd gotten tired of origin stories, and they kind of moved on from them. So it's already at a disadvantage, which they knew. So they tried to do that, or they did that, the memory thing where you're not sure what the origin is until later in the movie. And I just don't feel like that worked quite so well. You know what I mean? As far as, and it just, it was kind of clunky, and I think that character's got a lot of potential. I think Brie Larson's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to, what comes next. They just had to get that origin out of the way,
I mean, I've gotten bashed on a lot for simply stating that I think Brie Larson's a good actress because I've seen her in stuff besides Captain Marvel. And she's really good. Somehow that's a terrible thing to say.
Programming. They just have been programmed to react, to anything Brie Larson. You can look at all of these channels that we're talking about. You can look at their content for like the year around the release of Captain Marvel. And in fact, I did one time. You ever go to Social Blade?
Yes. Website? Oh yeah.
You can look at like pretty much all of their channels. The Fandom Menace, their peak was in spring, summer of 2019. all of their peaks are like, in that Captain Marvel release window, and they're constantly trying to get back to that. They're always trying to get back to those numbers. There's that, The Last Jedi, and The Last of Us 2. Those are their big three, money makers. Those are the most clickable topics.
I didn't. I'm not even familiar with Last of Us 2. I'm not really in the video game circle. The third one that I've always come across is Ghostbusters 2016.
That one was definitely the first one. That's the one that made them realize that they could do this kind of thing and get a lot of clicks. And then that's definitely the prototype. And then from there, those are the three that they managed to get to really, get to those heights again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's essentially anytime a new thing is coming out, they're already starting to do it with Wakanda Forever, where it's just we got to hit that height again. We got to hit those peaks, and it's exhausting. But I've said that I've said in the past, I'm looking forward to the Marvels, the sequel, because, it's got Brie Larson. It's got a black woman character. It's got, the little Muslim teen girl character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a trifecta for them. And it'll be actually interesting to see if they're able to get to those heights again with that kind of movie.
Jeez, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I really do feel like they're generally, not that they're like on the way down, but they aren't gaining new audience the way that they used to.
Mm-hmm.
All of these channels.
Well,
and so I'm kind of curious if that's going to hold or what.
We will have to see, but I do know, I did look up Critical Drinker's Social Blade the other day during the stream. Do you want to know how much he makes a month?
I mean, I can kind of guess. I see the numbers on his videos. It's absurd. But yeah, what's he make?
I would estimate around $50,000 a month.
Fuck, man.
I know. There's
no wonder.
There's a lot of money in being a dishonest grifter. What can I say?
I mean, no wonder that he makes so much low effort, lazy content, and then like dumb Americans, hear the accent and think, oh, he's really smart and knows what he's talking about. And
yeah,
yeah,
that's. Yeah, I think it's just absolutely bizarre. And yeah, the fans follow it like it's religion, and it gets really frustrating. Yes, the message. And I know that's something Eduardo brought up to me, and I think it's a good thing if you actually get to talk to these people. And I do stress, I want to talk to these people like on the stream, because I've learned talk to people in the comments is just kind of a fucking shit show. On the stream, when you're actually one-on-one, it works out a bit different. But the question he always wants to ask is, what is the message? And nobody can give a good answer.
It's I did a video on this topic like last year. It's a thought-terminating cliche. Like woke or SJW. People have a general idea. The people that take these terms seriously,
mm-hmm.
They have a general idea of what it means to them. But if you were to ask 20 of these people, what exactly does this mean? You would get some pretty different answers. There'd be some overlap, sure, but like it just essentially means whatever the person hearing it wants it to mean. And it prevents anybody from analyzing any further. That's why they have such superficial media analysis, because all they need to know is it's woke. And it's like, well, why is it woke? Well, it just is. That debate that I had with that Fandom Menace guy a few months ago.
Yeah, I watched that, yeah. That was a good debate.
I was like, so give me some examples of, the feminism being more important than the story. And he's like, well, Captain Marvel. And I'm like, okay, so I'll give you that one. That was 2019. What else? If it's such a problem that it's like, you can list more than that, right? Several examples since 2019, and he didn't really have anything. And
yeah. I know the one I always get is Mulan, which...
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, they bring up that one a lot. And I always like to bring up, hey, like, we can talk about how, like, the script for the live action one is way worse than the script for the animated one, for sure. But the identity politics in both those movies, pretty much the fucking same thing. So maybe that's not the fucking problem. Maybe... You still there?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It really is just whatever they're essentially told to think, I mean, and then there's That's why I started making that series of graphics, right? Like I started just on a whim. I made the critical drinker ones. And then people really responded to them. And I was like, holy shit, like maybe this is something I can use to cut through the noise, because there's just so much of their nonsense floating around at all times that it's hard to just make a salient point and cut through it to reach anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad I found a way to do that with these graphics, and I'm going to continue making them. But like one of the ones that I'm going to do is what I call the fake film feud. So like when Lightyear and Minions were both coming out, you know, and it's kind of the same thing with House of the Dragon and Rings of Power too, where like two things that are coming out in a certain window of time, they pick one that's not woke, and then the other one is woke, and for whatever reason, and they make content about that. And just like with those shows, they get to put both in the titles, which means both get picked up in the YouTube algorithm, and it's also the conflict that they need, the conflict narrative. But yeah, Lightyear and Minions was a really bizarre one, just because Lightyear they called woke because there was like a 3-second shot of a lesbian couple with a kid, and like that's it. That's all they needed to know call it woke, and then they made I don't know how much content about that, and then another one that was even more bizarre was in early 2020 they pitted Sonic the Hedgehog, the first one, against the Harley Quinn movie.
I wasn't here for that one.
Sonic's dominating Harley Quinn, and it's like, well, yeah, man, Harley Quinn's rated R. It was never trying to go for that same level of audience that Sonic is going to get. Like you've got two completely different movies targeting two completely different audiences, and they're acting like it's some kind of feud happening between these two things. Mm-hmm. It's bizarre.
And yeah, it's cross marketing. It'd be like putting Avengers Endgame against probably some romantic comedy that came out as counter programming when that came out. It's useless, and it's such a weird dynamic. Yeah, and they always change their narratives. I think Prey was the biggest obvious narrative change I saw from these guys, where like they're bashing on it so hard, and then it comes out, it's like, oh, this is actually really fucking good. It's like, oh, we have to change the titles of our videos and shit. And
yeah, Drinker definitely did.
Yeah, I did a whole piece covering him. But yeah, it's so bizarre. And the arguments for that movie were always the same. It's like, oh, how can a woman take on a predator? It's like, because nobody's taken on a predator using raw brute strength and ended a movie for one of those movies ever.
Yeah, literally the first one is a subversion of those masculine tropes, right?
Yeah.
That like these are like giant muscle-bound men with giant fucking guns, and they were useless.
Yeah.
And only once Arnold started like thinking, how do I, navigate? How do I put this thing in, create traps for it and outsmart it and so on? That's when he finally just barely won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
yeah, it's such an obvious just misunderstanding of the original movies, which is part of the issue. But of course, that's where they make the money. So yay. I always joke about, like, if I actually wanted to make serious money on here, I'd just keep on doing those old versus videos I used to, just load them with anti-woke shit. Oh, woman this. Oh, black person this. Oh God.
I've said before that, like I said, I know a lot about comics and films and stuff like that. I would argue generally more than a lot of these people.
Oh,
who act like authorities. If I chose to be this kind of gatekeeper or whatever, I would be the fucking best at it. Just because I could, come up with all kinds of arbitrary things that like, and act superior to everybody and make up lies that people, wouldn't even question in a lot of cases. But like, yeah, I could totally be. So when people come at me and they're like, oh, you're just a grifter. And I'm like, man, if I was a grifter, I wouldn't be out here like fucking fact checking myself and doing all this research and trying to be as accurate as possible. If I was a grifter, I would just fire up the camera and start saying shit.
Yeah, it's
that's
easy.
The way to do
it. Just anytime you see a woman or a minority pop up, just start firing up the camera and going, oh my God, something source material, Tolkien wouldn't have wanted it, whatever.
Yeah, by the way, you said that you want to have conversations with people. I do too. Little Movie Perp and I, especially him. That dude wants to debate. He does it in your comments a lot.
I see him a lot. When I saw him at the end of your video, I was like, hey, I know that name.
He wants to debate so bad, and we've put out several videos where, like last year, we did a video that we released that was literally just like, if you want to debate us about any of this stuff, please do. We didn't get any responses from that. And then one time on a stream, like last year, toward the end of the year, a couple of people said they wanted to, and then they didn't show up when I sent them the StreamYard link.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see. Oh, and then just a few weeks ago, I told Perp, I was like, let's do a stream where we literally we're going to advertise it ahead of time. Say this is where you come on if you have a problem with this, come on this stream and we'll talk about it. And we got 2 people. We did a 3-hour stream, maybe more. And this is like with 2 days prior to advertising it on YouTube, Twitter, saying this is the debate stream, come do it. And we got 2 people. One of them wasn't even a anti-fan. He just wanted to like argue about opinions about characters or something like that. I don't think he understood what we were really asking for. Nice guy, it ended fine. It was good. Because you can't like, oh, I don't like Lady Thor or whatever. Okay, what do you want me to how do we argue this?
I mean, you're allowed to have opinions. Just please, for your opinions, don't back them in weird like workarounds for bigotry. Just that's all I ask.
It's just easier than actually reading or the material or something, I guess. But yeah, then another guy showed up and we debated him. Perp did, and then I did about race swapping characters, because this is right after the Little Mermaid thing.
Of course,
the trailer came out. And this guy was just like, he kept repeating the same thing over and over again, like, well, there's no reason to do it. And we're like, okay, but can you explain to us why it shouldn't be done?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have anything. He had no arguments, and we were just shutting him down left and right with all kinds of arguments that I'm pretty confident are valid and good.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Well,
it's just like I want to talk to people too, but they don't want to talk to us. They, especially the content creators. And
the content creators love to do their little videos to make fun of you, but like when it's like, okay, let's come on and talk about it. You want to call me out on your fucking huge platform so I get tons of your hate comments? Why don't you come on and we'll talk about it? Nope. It's like they don't have actual confidence in their arguments.
No, they see it as beneath them, or they like you said, they know that their audience is going to take care of certain things for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially like by talking about us or by talking about a movie they don't like, they know they don't even have to say it, and their audience is a certain segment of their audience is going to go review bomb, or they're going to go brigade our comments, or whatever it is. And it sucks. Yeah, I don't think they have confidence that they could, argue with me. Like, I think that one guy that you watched the debate with, he'd only watched that one video by me, I believe, and saw a couple of things he didn't like that I said. And, honestly, I think if he'd have watched some more videos, he probably wouldn't have challenged me in the first place. But, and I'm saying that as somebody who, like I said, when I started this stuff, I had no confidence or ability to speak publicly or to get in debates or anything like that. This is just over 3 years. I've developed what I think are pretty strong arguments.
Before my computer completely crapped out, I was asking if there's anything you wanted to bring up.
I was actually asking you a question whenever it happened. I was like, I saw you, I guess, talking to that dude about, I guess he was a Rags fan, but he was also defending Fandom Menace generally, right?
Yeah.
I assume you must have covered Mahler or something at some point, right?
I have not brought up Mahler a whole lot, simply because I do not have the energy to sit through one of his videos.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to. All you need to do is what I've done and just reject the entire, philosophy of their channel that you can review these things objectively. They really hate when you say that.
Yeah, I do hate that narrative. Reviewing stuff objectively. This is art, guys. I mean, maybe you could say there's an objective thing, like objectively, maybe Tommy Wiseau shouldn't use 2 cameras when filming. Okay, but like that's so few and far between. For the most part, it's all subjective.
I'd even argue against that, just in the sense that, like, really, the things that you might say are objective, like a movie should have a certain structure. Like most people would agree on that, but at the same time, that on a long enough timeline, that changes. Structures of films 20 years ago are not exactly what they are now, and even in the future, I'm sure structures will change. So, like the standard, it's really just generally agreed upon preferences, cultural norms of the day, and 50 years from now, a movie might be something completely different, in a lot of ways than we think of it now. There are films that are considered classics now, like Blade Runner. What else? There's a few of them escaping me right now, but like movies that generally people agree are great. But when they came out, everybody hated them. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like I fundamentally reject the premise because the fact is, if these things were objective, why do I disagree?
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like that's too stupid to be, or too simple to be valid, but it really is that simple because, like, the implication of saying that, no, you're just wrong is that, what, my analysis is flawed, then why, once again, then it's not objective. Because if I can have a flawed analysis, am I crazy? Do I live in another dimension, and that's why my perspective is not correct one? It's absurd, and I've really gotten mad at those guys. But yeah, anyway, what was going on with the Rags guy? What have you?
Oh well, I mean, he's one of those EFAP guys, but yeah, he's done 3 videos on me so far.
Wow.
Yeah, yay. And every time one comes out, I get this wave of hate on the channel, and like recently, it's just like I'm exhausted by this. And frequently I just tell these guys, "Do you want to come on and debate it?" And of course they're always like, they'll be like, "Oh, I've seen how you've done debates," and it's like, okay, you see, you don't do well.
I'm getting to the point where I'm.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
I'm to the point where I'm literally working on a kind of submission form right now.
Mm-hmm.
That I like, and I'll have a link to it that I can drop anytime somebody on Twitter or in comments or whatever wants to try and argue with me. It's like, here, let me know what your argument is and let me know your availability, and we'll get on stream and we'll discuss it. I'm not going to do this text bullshit anymore, and I'm not going to do the. And by the way, one of the reasons that they swarm you like that. I don't know if they consciously know this, but the effect of it can be that you're too exhausted to make content.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes you hesitant to even want to talk about them. Like, that's part of it. It's a suppression tactic.
Well, so
you don't owe them anything, like.
Well, part of the ending of my second, when I respond to his second video, and I'm not responding to the third one, he can come on here and debate me. I've emailed him. It's been like 5 days. He hasn't replied. Shocking. But the end of my response to the second video he did on me was me saying I think he's just doing this to scare me off.
Yep.
He doesn't want the contrasting view out there. One thing I want to bring up, because I noticed this in the comments, Azul the All-Knowing said many movies can be viewed objectively because many movies have objective quality about them that can be measured. Azul, I would like you to give me some examples. Like,
yep.
Here's the thing, I even brought up the camera thing, which you could argue that's not a good idea, but even after I said it, I was even thinking, you could argue artistic merit even on something like that, where it's such a blatantly bad idea, but, it's something, and...
It's literally an indefensible position, you'd have to, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, you know what I mean? There's, to me, and this is just my opinion, my theory about it, is that people who make that argument and who are so insistent that certain things are just objective, this is an objectively good or bad movie, it seems to me like they're probably just kind of uncomfortable with people disagreeing with them and that they feel like they're not valid or whatever. So it's like this, I don't know, subconscious knee-jerk defense so that they don't, so that they can feel superior, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just what I get from it, because otherwise I don't see any value or gain. If you go to a film studies class in any college and tell them I'm judging this objectively, well, you're probably going to fail that class.
Yeah, they're going to laugh you out, man.
It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So it really doesn't make any sense to me. It really is just a phenomenon on YouTube where, certain dudes just feel like it's a grift. Maybe they really believe that they're being objective, but that just is because they're so up their own asses that they can't see that other people have perspectives. And it's not the same as looking at someone I argued with once about it was like, well, no, it's a movie has a certain purpose. If the movie doesn't serve the purpose that it's made to serve, then it's not good. It's objectively bad. And I'm like, okay, but who's to say what the purpose is when certain people, like some people watch a movie because they want to be intellectually stimulated or emotionally challenged, or they want to, some people just want to escape and turn their brain off. Like all of these are valid reasons to watch a movie. You know what I mean? None of them
definitely
are better than the other, no matter what you tell yourself. I may like to engage intellectually. I don't like to turn my brain off typically, but people who do, cool. It's it's literally just based on our frame of reference, our experience, our perspective, and these things are all subjective. So this guy said it's like a table. If you build a table and it only has 3 legs, it doesn't function the way that a table's supposed to function. And, and I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's true. But I mean, the thing is, we all generally use tables for the same thing. And the fact that, with the movie, like I just said, we don't all necessarily use movies for the same purpose. We watch them, and that's the only thing that you can say, well, I mean, in fact, I guess blind people don't watch them. So, you know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of, if a table is meant to hold things and it doesn't hold things, then yes, it's an objectively bad table. But a movie, it's not intended to have any certain specific outcome, and people's connections to movies or media of any kind, vary.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling about it.
Oh no, it's fine. Azul, the all-knowing, his response was, in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda kidnaps America and can simply take her powers on the spot, but doesn't try until 5 hours later. And so, real quick, before I get to actually this point, that's something I noticed. The Fandom Menace crowd, the leaders of this crowd, they are always talking about Marvel or Star Wars, and there's a whole world of movies out there, guys.
Yeah, but you know why they do, though, right?
Yeah, it's the algorithm.
Yeah, it's the most popular stuff. So, like, if DC suddenly, now that James Gunn is thankfully in charge of things, if DC starts making, amazing movies that are making all this money and getting talked about, they're going to pivot to that. It's simple as that.
Now, I'm 99% sure in that movie, it's been a few months since I've seen it, I'm 99% in that movie they said Wanda had to set up something to take her powers. I'm not sure what it was. And I don't know if it was 5 hours later. It was a little while later. I don't know. It doesn't really bug me that much. I thought the movie... It's not a perfect movie. It was a fun movie, though.
Right. And even, that's... The thing is, you can pick apart virtually any movie. It's anybody that acts like a movie is supposed to have 100% sound logic or it fails as a movie is just a dipshit, in my opinion.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to insult your audience or anything.
Yeah. My audience is either in agreement with me or one of these guys. So, I'm good. But yeah, it's like, I just don't even know where to begin with the argument that it's objective, because it's like objectively not objective. I don't know of a better way to say it. It's just, no, it's subjective. Art is subjective. How art hits people is different for everybody. Literally everybody. Generally speaking, you have like an agreement with the majority of the audience. That happens semi-often, but it's different. Someone might watch The Room, because I already brought it time away, so someone might watch The Room and think, wow, this is amazing. This really speaks to me. Probably not a lot of people, but it might happen. Art is a subjective thing.
That kind of goes to the point of like, well, yeah, I mean, most people generally agree that The Room it fails on like pretty much every technical level that there is in a movie. But then you've got this subculture of people who watch it and laugh and enjoy, watching it together. So it comes back to that: what is the purpose of this movie? And if you're assuming there's only one purpose, which is what Tommy Wiseau probably, it's not the purpose he assumed it was going to be. Right. But the fact that it's now become this other thing that he didn't expect or plan for, it's you can call it a good movie in that sense. It really good is the operative word there, and you fill that word with all of your very specific ideas of expectations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So Azul, you seem to keep on saying it can't be viewed as objectively. So, in your opinion, would Multiverse of Madness be better if there was literally like a 5-minute explanation on Wanda explaining why it takes 5 hours for her to hold America Chavez before she takes her powers? Would it be objectively a better movie then?
Wouldn't that slow down the pacing?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely would. But, yeah. Wanda not doing the power absorbing thing is not an issue. That is influenced by feelings, but how I view the film?
So how you view the film, that's the key phrase there, right?
Yeah. It's not influenced by feelings. It's influenced by perspective. Well, don't feelings influence perspective? We aren't robots, man. We are.
That's one of the things that these guys all love to do on the right, is they act like they can separate their logic from their emotions and stuff, and it's like that's actually a pretty emotional stance to take.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really tells me you're not in touch with your emotions, because you're not a fucking Vulcan. You're not able to just rationalize the logic part is over here, and then you're going to shut your emotions down and put them over here, especially when it comes to film and art in general, because it's inherently both. You can't. It's absurd. They have these asinine positions. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And for what it's worth, I will go ahead and say I am one of those people that enjoys The Room. It's not good, but I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, if you and a bunch of friends are hanging out watching it and you're laughing and throwing, spoons at the thing or whatever, like, is that not a good experience?
Yeah, no, it's great. You know? I was going to say, is there anything you want to bring up? I was probably going to try to get a video in before I sign out for that.
Oh, yeah.
But is there anything you want to talk about?
I'm good, man.
Okay. So. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Actual Fandom. Actually, now we have those YouTube handles, I think. So mine is @Actual Fandom. I've actually just launched a website yesterday that doesn't really have much on it except YouTube video links. That's actualfandom.com. And then on Twitter, if you're on that piece of shit, that Musk website, it's at fandom_actual. And then, yeah, if you heard me saying anything in this chat that you take issue with and you'd like to discuss, you can do what lots of people do and just say it in the comments under a video or whatever, and I'll probably not even really pay attention to it. But if you really want to engage with me, my email is actualfandom@gmail.com. Let me know what issue you have and what your availability is like, and we'll set up a stream and we can talk about it. But yeah, man, I'm really glad to finally been able to talk to you, dude.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, I've seen you on Twitter. I'm way more familiar with your Twitter activity than your YouTube activity. I've only just recently watched you on YouTube, but you kept on doing those memes and stuff. I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, it's frustrating trying to get people from Twitter over there, but like, yeah, hopefully people know me more from my YouTube in the future, but I've noticed that it's kind of helps me build my arguments. It helps me understand things better to just kind of engage on Twitter as well.
For sure, yes.
But yeah, I'd like to, figure out some way we can collaborate, in the future on something, I don't know, some focused topic or whatever. So,
yeah.
Let's keep in touch.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to set up that little community on Discord of the creators. Because, yeah, like, all these guys cross over in each other's show, and it's like, we should do something like that minus the bigotry. That would be nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we really should. I think it'd be a good thing. I think that it's something that people are kind of desperate for. I'm sure you get sometimes people, find your channel and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody's actually calling these people out,
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that there's really a demand for it. We just have to, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, definitely. I too would like to talk to Turf Nation. Like I said, I haven't watched their videos yet, but I just hear good things, and it's like I really should be checking them out more.
Yeah, I probably will try and reach out to him and a couple of other people now that you and I have spoken, and we can maybe see what kind of ball we can get rolling.
Awesome.
But, yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate you. And I'd like to have you on next week or so, whenever you're available. So.
Oh yeah, we will figure out something. Yeah, if I'm not working, I don't have my kids. Yeah, I'm there.
Cool. Take care. Thank you, audience. Appreciate you. See you later.
Have a good one. Oh, he is off. Okay. Well, that was a fun conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.